Buenas noches y bienvenidos a una charla con Luis Ayala. I am Yvette Herrera Duran, committee member for AIA Houston Latinos in Architecture and part of the LIA Collegiate Subcommittee. Before we get started, I would like to say a few words about our organization. Latinos in Architecture Houston strives to bring awareness of Latino culture through architecture, art, cuisine, music, and language. LIA, as we call it, provides mentorship opportunities for middle school, high school, and college students, as well as professional development opportunities and spotlighting the architecture and culture of Latin American countries. Please visit the AIAHouston.org calendar for our upcoming events and to become a LIA member. Everyone is welcome to join, and we would love to hear you. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker and moderators of tonight's event. They are also members of LIA. Join us in celebrating Luis Ayala, this year's AIA Houston Ben Brewer Award for Young Architects recipient. For the past 12 years, Luis has focused on the design of educational facilities for K-12 schools and higher education institutions. Sustainability is one of Luis's primary interests, and many of his projects have received design awards recognizing his innovations in sustainable design. Luis is also a professional architectural photographer, recognized in 2017 by the Texas Society of Architects with the Award of Excellence in the Promotion of Architecture through the Media. In 2016, Luis's design work was included in the Emerging Voices exhibition at ARC, as well as the AIA National Emerging Professionals exhibition at AIA Headquarters in Washington, D.C. Luis is an active member in the Latinos in Architecture, LIA, committee of AIA Houston, and the Architecture Center Houston's Michael G. Myers Design Competition, where he mentors high school students in developing their architecture ideas for the annual scholarship competition. This evening, Luis will be in conversation with LIA students from the University of Houston College of Architecture and Design, Ulises Contreras Carreon, Nyx Valerdy, and Javier Guerrero. At the end of the program, we will take questions from the audience, so please use the Q&A function to type in your questions. Following the conversation, LIA will announce our very first student collegiate scholarship recipients. All the work that we do and fundraisers are for these students, our future architects. So now, get ready and let's start la charla.
So Luis, some people know that you're from Paraguay, but would you like to share with us a little bit more about your hometown and how architecture compares in Paraguay, between Paraguay and the US?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I was born in Asunción, Paraguay, and I studied architecture in the Catholic school. There are two schools, basically. One is a national university and the other is a private school. That's the one I went. And I graduated in 98. And I worked in architecture until 2007 in Paraguay, and then I moved to Houston. When working in Paraguay as an architect is a lot different. In some ways, it's easier than working as an architect here. You have to be a lot more creative. And in other ways, for instance, getting paid is extremely difficult. Nobody wants to pay. That's something that is very wrong in South America, that they don't want to pay for services or professional services. So there are pros and cons. So I have, if I share my screen, I'm going to show you some of the projects. So I wanted to show the difference by showing you some projects of, hopefully you can see my screen now, right? Can you? So for instance, this is a project, and I want to start emphasizing that architecture is a work that you do with a lot of people. Unless it's a very small project and you can do it by yourself. I have been always lucky to having an excellent team working, or I have been working with excellent teams all my life. In this case, it was Gabinete de Arquitectura with Solano Benitez, Alberto Marinoni, and a great team that we had. This was a Unilever headquarters in Villa Lisa, Paraguay, a competition that we won. But I want to show you some of the things that we went through. The project was about creating a bristle, and so to create shadow for an existing structure. And this is Solano, and this is me when I had hair back in back in the days. And you see that these panels were broken. We were trying to create these panels with bricks that were very thin and were collapsing. And then we sat on that bench, Solano, Alberto, and I remember trying to figure out how we're going to fix this problem that we created ourselves. So we came up with a simple solution is just turning one brick upside down to create a rib on this panel. So they will withstand some weight when we apply forces to them. So these are the workers, and that understanding that Paraguay has a very unique labor force, meaning we have a lot of labor and materials are expensive. So materials are economical and labor is very abundant. So we can do projects using a lot of labor. And you can check these projects through in more detail later in my website, Luis Ayala Studio. But I wanted to show what we did with these panels. If I show the elevation, so you see that those panels were supporting themselves. Also, they were load bearing by being a very thin width of that panel. So what I'm trying to say is try to make this in the US. It's impossible. So that flexibility you have in Paraguay, where the client said this has never been done. And we said, well, we'll take full responsibility of this. And if it fails, it's on us, right? So, and so that's the main difference. You know how to design in the States. It's a more, I mean, it's different in the sense that you have some systems that are already there. And if you're trying to create a wall, you start thinking of these systems. In Paraguay, we design everything from the systems themselves, right? So that's something I missed of Paraguay, but there are things that I value more here.
And what is this, the name of this project? I'm sorry, I missed it at the beginning.
Unilever headquarters. Unilever is a Dutch company that they represent a lot of brands. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool that you can just kind of like design your own systems, design everything, kind of total design in architecture.
Oh, I remember this is going to be very informal. So we thought about making a script, and I said, nah, let's go with it. So for instance, this is another house, and when we were trying to play with it, and sorry, the photos are very small because it was the 90s and the digital cameras were 640 by 480. So this is the exterior wall of a house in Arewa, and Arewa is 50 kilometers away from Asunción, the capital. So we didn't have enough money to build a house. So we thought if we simplify the walls and make them thinner and use a third of the material, because when you turn the brick upside down like this, you're using a lot less material. You can make it economical, right? So, but then you were presented with problems like, okay, a wall this thin is not going to withstand by itself. So we came up with the idea of having these columns that are wood with some rivers that are tying down the walls. And this is how the house looks at the end. Of course, when you are trying to think of walls that are single wide and this thin, all the heat that they receive, they transmit inside. So we were able to do it because it was in a very heavily wooded space or area that the trees were providing the shade that we needed for these walls. So examples like this. When I was working over there, I enjoyed the experimentation that we were able to experiment doing things that we were never done, and we were the builders too. So that's something that is also different, that is always a design build practice. You come up with these crazy ideas and then you have to build it. So it's interesting.
And it looks like it's all passive design.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing those beautiful projects with us.
Thank you, Ulises.
Yeah, so on to the next question. Some of our attendees are students, and we'd like to know what has been your most useful or favorite skill that you learned during your architectural education.
Ooh, nice. I'm thinking of, good question. I'm thinking of several things. The first one that came to mind was if I show you the projects that I did in first year and second year of architecture, they sucked. They were horrible because you learn by doing it, right? And I remember the professors that I have in the Catholic University, but more specific, I remember my friend. We went to high school. We went to elementary, middle, high school together, and then we went to architecture school, Sergio Rogero. So Sergio taught me how to think in architecture. We started when we tried to do a project, one of my projects, and we started thinking, or he comes from a family of architects, so he told me how they work in projects and how to structure your ideas, of simplify the problem in order to be able to find a solution to design a building. So that was something important. Then the tools of the trade. When I was in school, I started in 1991. And so when they say that this award is a Young Architect Award, I feel very honored for the word young. So I learned how to use computer graphics to model buildings. I can draw by hand, but I'm much better modeling. So the first software that I used in school was FormZ that was a Mac platform, and then I started using AutoCAD 1. It didn't have undo. It was the first Autodesk product, AutoCAD, and so I started drawing with that when it first came out. So that's something. The tools that I learned are very important. In the same way that I learned by doing projects and thinking and simplifying the problems and trying to come up with a solution. When I took a seminar, a workshop in photography, also by knowing how to use the tools and how to solve a problem that you have in front of you. In this case, is creating a composition, a 2D composition of a 3D world. I use the same technique on that, and that my story with photography started in school when my school was very heavily relied on building models. So we for all of our projects, we had to show a model, and we were competing among students who had the better model. So, and in order to show it, why are you going to do a rendering of your project if you have a model? You can photograph it. So I started photographing my models. Then my friends asked me to photograph their models. And then when we went out of school, my friends asked me to photograph their houses and projects. I was photographing mine too. So that's a segue of how I come into photography as well. So the answer is those three things: know how to simplify a problem and find a solution by design, modeling, 3D modeling, and photography.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, that's something that many of the students experience, like the complexity of architecture. It would be very useful to just simplify it and move on with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ulises.
So if we can get to know you a little bit more, what was the catalyst from your move to the United States, and how was that transition like for you and your family?
Oh, I can tell you the political story, but it's not going to be true. So I was teaching in architecture after I graduated. I was teaching and I had my own practice, and having your own practice, and I was working a lot of time, Saturdays and Sundays, and I was not seeing my family. I remember one day when I came, well, let me go back. With my brother, I have a twin brother, and he started engineering. We used to race motocross when we were young, not this. And to to buy helmets or boots for that, we had to import everything from Miami or from the US, because these things were not available in Paraguay. So then people started asking us to import those stuff for them. So my brother and I founded a company. So, and we were administering that. We were selling so much that the owner of that company in Miami that we were buying from asked him to move to West Palm Beach, actually, to work with him in that firm. So I kept the firm for us. I was doing architecture and having that too. After a year, he was doing so well in that firm that the boss asked him, "Hey, I love working with you. You are selling so much. Do you happen to have a clone?" And he was like, "As a matter of fact, I do." So I was coming very late home from teaching, and my brother called my wife. He called home, and I wasn't there. So my wife spoke with him, and she made the decision that we were going to move to the US, because my brother told her, I have a lot of work, and Luis can be good at this. So I moved to West Palm Beach, and honestly, I was making very good money selling motorcycle gear on eBay. But I was missing architecture every day. I stopped by when I was going to the shop, I stopped by a building that was when being erected, and I would stop by and check what they were doing. The systems were different, and of course, everybody spoke Spanish there. So I was the curious guy that always stopped. And one day I called a friend of us that lived in Houston because it was her birthday. And she told me, well, how come you have a West Palm Beach area code? And I told her, I'm doing this. And she was like, you live for architecture? And I was like, yeah. She was like, no, you. And she knew my house in Paraguay, Casa de Luna. So I think someone had that photo in their screen. So she told me, no, send me your resume. I'm going to find you a job here in Houston. So she shared a wall of her townhome, shared a wall with Frank Kelly. So she knocked the door next to him and gave him my resume. And Frank called me, and I was like, I want to interview. And I mean, that's the world is very small. So I want to say I was ready to leave architecture, because I wasn't, but that's the way it is. I mean, I didn't plan my future. It was I was always following where the wind was taking me like a sailboat, and that's how I ended up in Houston.
Well, that's very interesting how small of a world we live
Yeah.
in. Like, and if you follow your passion, it seems like there is always a door opening in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly.
So you briefly touched about how it was working in Paraguay, but how do you find that work-life balance between working in Paraguay and then coming here to the US? And,
That's something that first I love that being an employee, not the owner of your firm. When they told me it's 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I was like, that's it? 40 hours, really? Being accustomed to putting 70, 80 hours working, yeah, that's it. But quickly I realized that is not that true. I mean, you can do it, but if you want a success, you have to put a lot more. And of course, I started working as a designer with SSW Group at that time. So when you're designing projects, you have to be there available, and you work the hours that are needed to put that project up, right? So, but the work-life balance, in architecture, if you want to be an employee, you can do it 9 to 5 and have a very nice work-life balance. But that's something I always told people, that you are paying me to do what I love, right? So for me, drawing and modeling and sketching or photographing is like playing. Like I enjoy doing that. So it's not, I mean, if you put me to do something else, like spreadsheets or numbers or being a project manager, that will be a 9 to 5 job to me for me. But if it is designing or photographing, no, I love it. So no problem.
Speaking about your work, so what was your experience like designing a project that was recognized and exhibited by the Emerging Voices and the AIA National Emerging Professionals in Washington.
Okay, I'll share my screen again. And this is something that I have to thank SSW Group. When I joined them, we had the opportunity of doing this project. And I remember vividly my friend Jody got this project from this client, Jody Sergi. She was Jody Henry at that time. And the client wanted something very, they were thinking outside the box, and I think we were the right firm to do that. It was an elementary school, this district in Spring, but they used to do elementary schools in one story. The first goal was to, hey, well, let's make it a two-story building, and they were cool with that. They wanted a green building when green wasn't in vogue yet. I mean, it was, LEED was starting. This was 2009, I think. 2000, no, we started building in 2008 when the economy went down. So it was a very, the opportunity was huge. And the design director that I was working with, Tracy Ike, also, we worked together really well. I miss that guy so much. And but I had the opportunity of thinking outside the box, and they wanted that out of me, to bring that South American way of designing to this project. So it was very well received. It won the first AIA Design Award for our firm. The same year, it won the Tasi Caudil Award, that is the education award in Texas, and then the Green School Award by the USGBC. So it was a very cool project. I mean, you can go and look at it. It's a beautiful project. What I'm most proud of it is one of the problems that we had in that district was the low attendance. School, it's a poor neighborhood, and kids live by themselves, and they live with their parents, but their parents are usually working, and they leave their children to go to school by themselves, and sometimes they don't want to go and they don't show up. So the attendance was very low in the district. And when we did this building, because of that, how it looks and they loved being there, the attendance was 100%. So that for us was a very a success. I remember with SHW Group, we used to practice the first day of school. We will go to the school and open the doors to the students and show them their building the first time that they were introduced to their buildings. And it was very emotional because some of them were asking, is this for me? It was like, wow, they couldn't believe it. And for us architects, that is the best reward you can get, that your clients love your work. So when that building won so many recognitions and award, there was an opportunity with Architecture Houston, with Arch, to present, and for the what was a Young Architect Forum. So they basically they pushed me to present there and to show my work, and it was selected here. Here's what it was selected among the people that presented. And then without me knowing, the AIA Houston submitted this to AIA National, and it was recognized there in Washington. And to my surprise, when I went to check that, on the first floor, I don't know if you've ever been to the AIA headquarters in Washington. They have two stories, and one is overlooking to the other one. And the first floor was this sign, and next to it, it was this. And it should have say SSW Group here, not my name only, but because it's not only my work, it's a lot of people involved, as I said before. But on the first floor was Gloria Marshall Elementary School and no one else. And then on the second floor were the other award recipients. So it was a very nice surprise, to be honest. But that's how it works. And I would recommend you, when you see things where you can submit your work, even student work with AIA Houston, just do it. I mean, it takes some time to prepare the sheets and put everything together. But that's a way of getting recognized and show your work. And that's because SSW pushed me to be there and show our work. That's how I ended up being there. And then to my surprise, it went all the way to the nationals. So
I love that so much. I love that project because it's a real life example of the power of architecture, what it can do for people.
yeah, our team, I gotta emphasize that our team was amazing. I mean, having some of you know Jody, she's driven. She's one of the best project managers I know. She made it happen. So
Thank
We
you.
can see all the passion and all the work that you have for the
Yeah.
project. It shows there.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think that's the dream. That's why we all chose architecture, to really like connect with people.
Yeah.
Design.
Yeah, and that's what when I was in Paraguay, I was doing houses for rich people. And yeah, it was cool until they call you Sunday and they have that emperor thinking and they want you there right now and they don't care about your life and everything. And yeah, it gets old really quick working with with these guys. And that's what I like of working with institutions like ISDs in school districts. First, they're very well educated people usually, and they care about their students. And when you have that same care and that same passion to give these students something better, not by making the building more expensive or spending more money, but just thinking and changing with design. That's the power of design. With with the same amount of money, you can do a much better building that will benefit their students. And there is a book called The Third Teacher where it speaks about the importance of having a good environment where to study. If acoustics are good, if the conditions are perfect, these children will bloom by themselves if you put everything in the right place. But if the acoustic is bad and there is glare on the screen and things like that, that's what we do, right? Design stuff to work. So, and it's difficult to flourish in conditions that are not designed well. So that's what, and when clients see that we care about their students too, and it's not only for us to make a good building and make a buck, they let you do stuff. That's one of the reasons I love working in educational architecture. There is a very true sentiment about taking care of their students, and that's interesting. That's something I love about educational architecture.
Yeah, as a student myself, I mean, I also see the impact in the environment when studying. Like I myself will move my body somewhere so I can study efficiently. And I also believe that education is the foundation to society. It is
Yeah.
super important.
Yeah. In the case of U of H, I mean, I think Philip Johnson could have done a better job designing that building, but the atrium is a very nice space. I like the atrium. It's interesting,
Yes.
and in that sense, is dignifying the act of teaching or learning, right? So that's what we do. And if in my case, when I was studying in my school, the building was okay. We went there because we like what we're doing, but I think several people were also put off by the conditions of the buildings. And when my school had a treaty with the schools with the school in Venice, when I went the first time to study in Venice for a year, holy cow, those buildings were amazing, designed by Aldo Rossi, and they were like, Jesus, they have blinds that automatically dim the room. I never seen that in my life. It was like, holy cow, I love this. I mean, it's dignifying, right? It's making what you do a much enjoyable situation.
Yeah, Temple for Learning. Although we do miss the College of Architecture quite a bit now that we
Yeah,
haven't been able
I
to grow
imagine.
studios.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a good building.
Yeah.
Too.
And I know that's something you've photographed with one of the projects that our professors have done there. So talking about photography a little bit, how do you keep up with that, and how has that contributed to your design process, being a photographer?
Wow. Okay. I always love photographing buildings, and when I moved here in 2007, when my family and I moved here, we were running away from the recession in Paraguay. It was very difficult to work over there and stuff. And we brought the recession with us then to the state when we moved, right? So I remember when I started in HSW Group Houston, we were something like 120 employees. And then when all the layoffs that we were end up at something around 40. So we didn't have enough work, although the recession hit us late because a lot of these work in public works are bond related. So you have the money already in advance. So but in 2008, 2009, we didn't have a lot of work, but we have a lot of work that was being finished. And at that time, we were using Richard Payne. And Richard Payne, if you remember, was one of the best photographers in American history. And he was photographing Philip Johnson's work all over the country. So the famous photograph of the Pencil Tower that you see everywhere, that's Richard's. So he was not cheap. His work was exceptional. And he was photographing our high schools, and I don't know how much he charged, and I wish I knew. But he was giving out 10, 12 photos. And to show a high school, 700,000 square feet high school, you need more than 10, 12 photos. And we couldn't afford him more than that. So one of the principals, Mark Lamb, organized one architectural photography competition, and Rami, Hannah, and I we won that competition, both of us. And so I started photographing our buildings here in Houston. My first photos were bad, and I used to go to buildings 3 or 4 times to get it right. And after a while, then my name started getting recognition in the other offices in Dallas, in Austin. So I started photographing their work too. So in Michigan, the same thing. So at the end of my time with HSW Group, I designed a lot of projects, but I photographed 250 of our schools around the country. So that gave me all the practice you need to learn architectural photography. 250 schools I photographed. So, and the funny thing is that the recession, you have to do both works. I was designing in the morning and the afternoon and photographing at night. I used to have a hashtag. I was joking, the noche soy Batman, because at night I was doing other jobs like Batman. But yeah.
Well, now that you mentioned the recession, and we're kind of going through some economic similarities, do you have any advice for students or for those recent graduates, those emerging professionals who are here on the call?
Yeah,
any advice?
I remember when I was in school, one of my friends wanted to leave architecture and do, I think it was business administration or something. And a very good engineer, he passed sadly. His name was Ingeniero Dumont in Paraguay. He gave us a recommendation in a lecture that if you are an architect, you have a very wide scope of things that you can do with your life. You can be specialized in a lot of things. So for instance, my friend Rami Hanna, that I used to work with him in the HSW Group, he was excellent at doing renderings. He opened his own firm and now he has 15 employees working with him doing renderings. His company is Tilt Pixel. My case in photography, for instance, but other people specialize in writing specs or project management or project architecture. So there is a lot of things that you can do besides just doing architecture to complement your career. Other people are very good at drawing and doing renderings by hand. So I will say if you find something that you like doing while you are in architecture school, for instance, if you like drawing, keep doing it and keep getting better at it, and that proficiency will take you places. Like I never thought that photography will will take me where it took me until now, right? That I could stop architecture if I want to and live off photography, just doing photography. I don't think I would like to do that, but I can do it, right? Or the case of Rami. So if there is something you like doing it, keep doing that. And there are a lot of venues in our profession that will let you
They will let you
be
somewhere.
proficient at something like you love. Or sustainable architecture. There are a lot of architects in the big firms that I worked that were doing only that, being the sustainable leader for each project in the office, right? So.
Well, that's again some great advice. Follow your passion, and if it's not your first love, it will be the second closest love to you, and it'll take
Yep.
you there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna ask you for more advice.
I don't know if I can give you more.
I think you're gonna like this one. So, what advice would you give to someone pursuing a career in sustainable design?
Oh, nice. You know what I learned, Ulises, is that I was not an expert in sustainable architecture. Although when I did that house, I'm going to start sharing my screen again. Casa de Luna, that was one of my first projects in Paraguay, and that was even before LEED. So if I go back here, work. Where is Casa de Luna here? And it's called Casa de Luna y Alon because my daughter is Luna and my son is Alon. And so we did this house for them actually. So my role here was architect, owner's husband. That is very important to note. I don't know if my wife ever realized that this is my role in this project. For instance, in this case, I noticed. Think about this, Ulises. When, for instance, when you go to the beach and you're trying to protect yourself from the sun, you use an umbrella, right? And you keep moving the umbrella to shelter you and give you shade. And it's the same case with our buildings. If we just expose them and leave them there naked and trying to deal with the sun, then they're not going to be comfortable buildings to live with, and the energy bill is going to be crazy, because that's what we did in the 70s and 80s, because we had so much, the energy was so cheap, and we can afford air conditioning, right? But in this case, in Paraguay, energy is very expensive, and we were a family we were starting up, so we were trying to save everything that we can. So the idea, if I go to the section, I don't have the section here, but was to bury the building. So this is a west elevation, and so the sun was never hitting the walls. And on the roof, that was for the photo, I plan to have water, but to act as a thermal battery, and to also 70% of the heat comes from the roof. So if you have there something, of course, that leaked like crazy, I can tell you, because I don't have clients here watching, hopefully, but there was a lot of water coming through the roof. So I had to change the system. I installed something else, but that's the idea. Think of buildings like you have to protect them. And if they are protecting their uses, right, you have to think of how to protect them as well. And with the tools that we have today, let me show you a project that I have here. This is a project I did with Gensler, and last time it won an award in AIA Los Angeles. So we were competing. It was a private competition for the Prince of Saudi Arabia, and his wife runs a school, the Misk School, and Misk in Arabic means the dew, Rocío. I think is that in English is dew.
Like
and
mist?
Mist, exactly. So what I wanted to show you of this project is the tools that we have to work with now to think about sustainable design. So let me get there. Okay, so how are we with time? I think we have to be wrapping up. But this is in Riyadh, this is a wadi, and wadi means a little river. And a lot of people go here because the water brings the temperature down. And the only tree that grows in this area are these date palms. So when I started with the concept, and I promise I will get to the sustainable question here. When I started with the concept, I thought, if what they are using here to shade themselves are date palms, they don't provide a lot of shade. But if you combine these leaves, if you multiply them, now they create some shade. Sorry. So I started thinking of how can I create a canopy using the date palm as a pattern, and using also these Arabic architecture patterns that they have a lot. So, and this is an exercise of modeling fast in SketchUp, because it was a competition, a paid competition, but they gave us 15 days to come up with a solution for the school.
Oh, wow.
So I started playing with these ideas of the date palm that I rotated in the same axis, trying to create more shadows, and then to see the density of these shading devices, how they were going to shade the spaces. Then this is a scale of a person, when working in a desert environment, to create shade is everything. So we were going to multiply this by having thousands of these date palm structures. They also ask us to design using the Naji architecture, and Naji means when they created their fortifications, in order to create windows, they place one brick and next to the other, creating a triangle effect, because it was the most efficient way of creating a window in a very solid adobe wall. So this triangle idea on the windows came up also in modern architecture, representing what is Naji. So applying that idea to our, it would be better if I make this bigger, to our canopies, we came up with several ideas. Notice when they move these palms, and I was researching this, and this is something that also help us as architects, and I encourage you to do that as students. Be very curious about your environment and what's happening. So I noticed that this tree has the leaves up like that, and I started asking why. Were they trying to trim it? And the answer from one of the natives over there was no, they just moved that plant. And when they move it in a truck, what they do is they put the leaves up and they tie it up. So we came up with the idea of we can do the same with our canopy, right? When we need to exhaust hot air or bring more light if we want to, we can open it up. We started thinking of the building having a parking garage, the school in the middle level to take advantage of the wind, and then creating a shading device on top. And this is showing how the shade changes when the sun is moving. I'm not going to go through the program, but this is where I wanted to get. With the tools that we have, I ran this model into a wind tunnel, and the wind tunnel was showing me, and this is not, I'm not an expert in flow design, but you can do trial and error. You can try your model to see when it's working. And what we were trying to do is to minimize the hot wind that we had, but to keep breezes, just some breezes. And you see here on the center, we were trying to create a space where students are going to be spending most of their times. We wanted to be able to control that wind and to provide the right amount of breezes that will make it bearable. So then we started, and I'm counting the days. This was a presentation showing how we evolved the project in 15 days. This was the first time I killed a mouse working modeling. I usually use Logitech mice here, like this one. And I modeled so much in 2 weeks over there in California that my mouse died. the left click button died. It ceased to work. I modeled all of this by myself. When I got to California, I was like, okay, perfect. Who is my team? And they all look at me. You are the team. Shit. So I have to come out. I have to design and model it. Yeah, but honestly, I had a team behind doing everything else that was not design related. So I'm just joking. But so day 14, this is what we got. The parking garage here, the structures, 2 stories here, and a shading tool there. So going back to the question of sustainable architecture, if you think of our conditions here was a hot climate, we had to elevate ourselves to be able to take the wind that comes with a lot of sand at that height by elevating ourselves, lowering the temperature by creating shade, introducing water inside of the space. That created this space like an oasis. And that might be a cliche, but in the desert, you want to find an oasis, right? So we were doing that by the mist that this was creating. Was the purpose was to lower the temperature and to make it bearable to use a courtyard in the Arabic weather. And that's what they usually do. And studying a lot of the way they do architecture is usually they create these small courtyards and try to cope with the weather like that. So, and going back to your question, is to be curious, to try to find a solution. Think of the building as when you go to the beach and usually you want to wear something or want to put something to protect your skin, and when the sun is too hot, or you use an umbrella. So our buildings are the same thing. So I'm simplifying it. I'm simplifying it a lot, and then the tools that we have. Okay, I think I'm extending my. Let me show you something else, because this is a very cool tool that I found recently. I'm working with Turner Ramirez Architects in Corpus Christi, and we're doing a very cool building for UTMSI. So that's University of Texas, and MSI is they have. Oh, this is not the project I wanted to show. Oh, sorry about that. This is Port Aransas. UTMSI is this one. Okay, so this is a dorm. When my daughter moved to college, she sent me the layout of her room, and she wanted, can you study in SketchUp the several ways of come up with locations for the bed? So on purpose, I drew her very thin like that, and stick figure, and try to come up with several. So there are studies like this. Is a study that Gensler did about remaking student living, and we started thinking of ways of working and making our dorms a little bit more interesting. But I come up with this portion of the design that I wanted to do this overhang to the building. This is a dorm, very simple. It's elevated over the dunes in Port Aransas, and the views to the bay are beautiful. Not to the bay, to the coast. So the MSI is Marine Science Institute of University of Texas. So these students are going there to research about marine science. So I was showing this to a couple of scientists that are our clients. So I show them that if we have this overhang, the sun protection on the face of this is almost optimal. You see this is showing that it's less than 20% of the annual exposure. And this I'm using this is a plugin over SketchUp that is called Curac Sun, C-U-R-A-C, Curac Sun. It's free, and it lets you analyze this, right? So if my overhang was a little bit smaller, 8 feet overhang, I was having some light on the bottom. If I keep reducing my overhang to make the building more economical, at 6 foot, I have a lot more exposure. 2 feet, it starts to show orange, and 0 feet overhang. This is what a builder will say, why are you wasting your money doing that overhang that is not helping anyone, right? So if people are not working there, well, it is, because all of that heat is being transferred inside the building, and then you have to cool it, right? So when the client saw this, they were like, okay, give me a middle ground, and let's say it's 8 feet. So the design intent was to do that overhang, and by showing the tools and showing the science behind it, then they let you do very cool buildings too. But not only because they are cool, but because they are solving a problem. And then this is Sapphira also running over SketchUp, and where you can assign the surfaces, if they are wall, if they are roof, and then it will give you your consumption analysis, your energy consumption, annual energy consumption, and you can, this is plug and play. You can change the size of the windows and see the daylighting. So I'm enamored by using these tools that show you the real effect on a building and how much your energy bill will be. This is 13,000 kV. No, 13,000 was my area, but it was telling me the kVTU per year, and that translates into money. So if you show this to the client, we have the tools are accessible to us, and we show them that they're saving money by doing the design that we're proposing. I don't know a client that will tell you, no, that's stupid. I mean, you're showing them the science, and they like the design, and it's like, yeah, go for it. I like it. And that was the situation with this client, and now we're building this one. Well, not yet, but we're going to be building it. But the final images are here. UTMSI. It's a very cool building. It's a simple building, but yeah. So I hope that answered your question. Use your tools, know your tools that are available to us, and what I usually do when I start a project from scratch is to, where is the sun coming, where is the wind coming, what is the weather temperature, and how can I help this building to cope with that, with the environment, right? And that helps me. When I have all of those layers stacked, I know what I have to do. It's like I'm trying to find, the problem will show itself when you know all the problems.
Wow.
The solution will show itself when you know all the problems. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. That was very good advice. Very, very good.
No problem.
Thank you.
Pretty
I know,
good.
like,
We're
for
not done.
school-
Are we done? I think.
No, I was just gonna
time.
say that we're not done with school yet, and I want to start the next semester already.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
inspired us.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, thank you for answering our questions. I know we have some questions from the participants. So the first one's from Maria. She asked, would you come to Paraguay to work if you had a chance to do a project?
I am working in Paraguay too. So in last October, I don't have to go that deep, but well, a private school hired me to do a project in Paraguay that I did it in last year, and I think they're going to start construction in March. So the funny thing is that when I left Gensler, I started working on this very same day. This project landed to me, and it was like, oh, interesting. The very same day, the owner of Turner Ramirez Principal asked me, Turner Ramirez Architects, he asked me to join their team. So I was doing both things at the same time. I designed this project really fast. The school for the Paraguay, Colegio Japonés Paraguayo. It's very difficult to translate. So Japanese Paraguayan school. And so I designed it really fast, and then I started working with Turner Ramirez. So that is going to be built now. And then a month ago, a friend of mine asked me to design a house for him in Encarnacion. That's a city away, 300 kilometers away from the capital. a very cool house, and we went to school together. So I hope that that will be nice. So I'm doing that whenever I can. I juggle my time and try to, but I'm enjoying working in Paraguay as well. And when I finished that project, the Paraguayan school, it was on hold for a long time, and now the builder is going to develop it over there. The client asked me, I want you to do the CA or Administración de Obra, basically CA. So basically go to check how the building is built if they're respecting my design. And I told her, you know I live in Houston, right? And she was like, I know. Okay, I'll see how can I manage that. And then of course COVID happened, so we'll see how that goes.
Balance into the travel also.
Yeah, I don't know how will I do that. Not sure yet.
Yeah, we have a comment from Bayardo. He says he's a great school and he got a chance to visit the GM, and it's just fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Gloria Marshall Elementary School. Thank you, Bayardo.
The next question is, what is your go-to lens for architectural photography?
I want to know that too.
What is my go-to lens? 24 millimeter tilt shift. I photograph 90% of my work with 24 millimeters. Some of the photographers I admire the most, they use 17 or 17 if you use Canon, or 19 if you use Nikon. And they are masters using the 17, but I found that 24 is what I find it more comfortable to us. It looks a lot more natural. When you go wider, the image starts to distort, and you have to be really careful. And these guys that are admired, for instance, Fernando Guerra, his go-to lens is 17, but he knows how to use it. Very good. But the answer is 24 tilt shift Nikon.
I think we have one last question so far. So this one is from Abner Reyes. He says, "Hi Luis, this is Abner Reyes. We previously met with Dr. Lam and
Mark Lam, yeah.
At Stantec during my final year of graduate school at Paraguay. And his question is, I am a newly registered architect navigating the workforce. Up until now, I haven't had any success finding employment at large companies that design the type of projects that I am interested in." He is interested. "Mostly, I've been working on small hotel projects and some aviation work for a firm that's 30 people total. What advice would you recommend to a young architect who wants to be part of a large firm?"
Okay. Well, if you are newly registered architect and you want to work for a big firm doing big projects, remember everybody wants to work for big firms and do big projects. So it's difficult to compete with that. If I have to do it all over again, I will work with small firms, not big firms. You learn a lot more working with small firms. You are involved in a lot more issues that you are able to take care of everything related to the project. When you are in big firms, I saw with my eyes that some people are pigeonholes and doing just little repetitive stuff. And when you are recently graduated, don't think that you're going to be doing the project like the one I did in Saudi, right? It's hard to do that. So I think the best way of doing it is work on a small firm first or medium firm and do everything that you do with passion, even if it is a bathroom renovation, doing the best bathroom renovation you can do. Spend a lot more hours. There is a photographer, and I'm mixing the both worlds of photography and architecture. A photographer that I did a seminar with him, Tim Griffith, said once you have your angle selected, spend 5 more minutes trying perfect that angle and try to find how can you make it better. The same with a project. Sometimes we come really fast to a solution and we love it, right? And we can be finished and enjoy our life and go to our house and spend your time relaxing. But if you spend more time, a little bit more, and keep polishing and make it better and better and better, you're going to be noticed, right? When with small projects, we have to start with small projects. We're not going to do the Barcelona airport on our first project, right? That's not real. There are a lot of other people that are more capable taking care of these big projects. But with that, doing small projects and loving that, you will get to little by little to adding more square feet to your buildings, right? I started with very small buildings in Paraguay. When I interviewed with Frank Kelly in SSW Group, they saw the potential of what, and this is mostly with what I was doing with Gabinete Arquitectura with Solano and Alberto. They found that interesting. They started giving me projects. I never worked with an elementary school like Laura Marshall that was 106,000 square feet, but I did my best with it, and then I started growing in the size of buildings that I got. Then it was 700,000 square feet. Was a high school incline that I did. When I moved to Perkins and Will, the first project that they gave me was $300 million projects. Until this day, is the largest projects I ever worked with. Of course, you have a battalion of people working with you on projects like in that size, but it's little by little, right? The progression is small. And believe it or not, now I'm doing a house for my friend in Paraguay that he has $50,000, and I'm enjoying that like crazy, because it's like going back to the origins, doing a very small project and trying to solve common problems with no money. So I don't know. We have the dreams of doing big projects and very complex projects, but smaller projects they have a lot of potential also. And
Personal touch, it sounds like.
yep.
Well, are we good on time?
Yes, it's. I think we're good for Luis. Your turn to announce our recipients.
Yeah. So as part of the Latinos in Architecture, we started this year with Latinos in Architecture Houston, and one of our goals is to try to be mentors of younger students or professionals that are studying in architecture, to try to find common ground and where we can all help ourselves to grow in this profession. So there is a program that we have where we have, there are mentors and we have mentees, and we discuss about various subjects. But one of the goals of our group in Latinos in Architecture is also to give scholarships to these mentees. So this year we don't have enough to share, because with COVID our fundraising was basically halt. We couldn't do a lot of fundraising, but we have some money. So I'm going to start with the runner-ups, and we have two: Francisco Ruiz and Desiree Gonzalez. Congratulations. You are going to get a $500 scholarship that can go towards tuition at your school, or if you prefer to buy books or anything that helps you to finish your architecture program. And the first place goes to Mariana Cano. So congratulations, Mariana. The award for that is $1,000 towards tuition or books or everything related to your profession. So thank you guys for joining us as mentors and as mentees. And I hope next year we can make this our group grow larger and try to bring more people, and also increase the pool of scholarships that we can give to our community. But that's the main reason of Latinos in Architecture, to try to help ourselves, each other, by sharing everything that we know. So That's
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so
good
much,
force.
Luis. We appreciate you coming on board. I'm Linda Camacho, the Chair for Latinos in Architecture. And I know we're passionate about architecture, but we're also passionate about helping our fellow community and our fellow architects making it through this process, and that's why we're here. And I also want to invite everyone. We have another event this coming Thursday, and that is a presentation, a conversation with visual artist Carolina Otero and curator Rosana Orlando, and it's about bridging art and architecture. As you know, we like to discuss, sometimes we lose focus of architecture or art, and it's something that Latinos in architecture likes to bring to the table. I do want to say that with Luis Ayala, we do owe you a rain check. So after this whole pandemic, we do need to meet somewhere and enjoy, have some drinks, and actually toast to your award.
Yes.
And I know this is much more fun in person, so but we wanted to share this with everyone and congratulate you for your award. I know that I forget how many Hispanic or Latinos have won this award. I know it's been mentioned, but I don't know if you know.
Camilo Parra was the first one, and now it's my time.
So just, well, great, congratulations. And I hope we have more upcoming Latinos and Latinas that can get this award. But
yeah, we have to hurry to do that celebration, because I don't know if next year I'm going to be young anymore.
Yeah, we're always young at heart. It's just a number. The other thing we talked about is once this pandemic goes through, that hopefully we can do a trip to Paraguay. Latinos in Architecture visiting Paraguay, and you'll be our tour guide.
That would be great, yes.
Yeah, well, great. Well, appreciate everyone joining us tonight, and stay tuned for some more fun events with Latinos in Architecture. We do want to wish everyone a good evening. Thank you, everybody.
Muchas gracias. Hasta luego. Buenas noches.
Luego. Cuídate mucho.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. Saludos. Good night, everybody.
Chao.
Thank you. Ciao.